Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi, and I am a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I'm going to give you a forewarning. I have a really bad headache, and my words are difficult to find, but we're going to do it anyway. I had a listener reach out to me today, somebody that I don't know. And, it's not very often before I started doing this podcast that I had people I didn't know reach out to me. And so I think it's an automatic reaction now because I've had this happen several times now, which is really exciting. And when I get somebody reach out to me, to be skeptical of, okay, who is this person and why are they reaching out to me? And like reading the message like 4 times to make sure that I'm understanding it right. Like, is it a scam? It's sad. It's sad that that's the case today, but it is the case. Anyway, that seems to be my automatic reaction. I've had that happen, I think 4 times now. So, sorry, I ate a Triscuit, but right before I hit play, and I'm not supposed to do that or record. So the message said that she just wanted to reach out to me and say hi, and that she is also a stroke survivor, and my podcast is a part of her day, her daily routine, and thanked me for showing my vulnerability and talking about the struggles that I deal with. And so if you're listening to this episode, I want to tell you thank you, number one, for doing that, because I've talked about it before. You have no idea what that does for me. This is what it does, if I can articulate it. When I started this podcast, I had a conversation with my husband, and I said, if I can help one person, then my pain was worth it. If I can help one person by sharing my experience, strength, and hope, then it's all worth it. And so today we were eating dinner this evening, and I told him that I had somebody that I didn't know reach out to me and say hello and say that she was a stroke survivor and thank me for telling my story. And he said, "That's amazing." And like he really paused on that. He said, "That is amazing. You achieved what you set out to do." And I said, "Yeah, I always blow things off. I'm like, yeah, that's what I did." He's like, "You told me in the very beginning, if you help one person, then it's all worth it. And you've achieved that." And I was like, huh, I really did say that. And I really mean it. There have been times over the past year that I have thought like, oh, I want more listeners. How can I get more people to get on board and listen to the podcast? And, well, I see these other people who have thousands of listeners, and why don't I have thousands of listeners, And I have to reel that back in because that's my ego that's talking, and we talk about ego here all the time. It's my ego saying, shifting my goal, trying to make this some sort of popularity contest. And that's not why I'm here. I started this podcast because I needed help. And the only way I knew how was what I had learned in my sobriety program, and that was to let it out, talk. Um, and having lost a very close friend of mine to alcoholism only a year and a half prior to that, I thought, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut anymore. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be obnoxious, but I don't have anything, any reason to not share my experience with my alcoholism, with my stroke, with my vestibular disorder, and heck, with all of the mistakes that I've made. If I can share about my mistakes and what I learned from them, wouldn't it be nice if other people could learn from them too and not make the same mistakes? Wouldn't you think that if we as human beings shared our experiences with each other and we all learned from our mistakes as one organism, that we would evolve so much faster, you know? Um, Really, I just can't stay silent anymore. I have to recover out loud because I realized after my friend died that um, it's it is a fatal disease, and I want to give somebody just a little more of a chance to choose sobriety. And that is the sobriety piece of it that pushes me to do this. My stroke, as I have entered into this past year and had to walk away from my job and all of this stuff, um, I started to realize the severity of what happened to me. And I know that I'm not the only one that that happens to, that we have a stroke and then we go back to work, or we're like, you know, um, I mean, for me, you couldn't see what was wrong with me. I couldn't see what was wrong with me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought I had a headache and it was going to go away. And um, so I minimized the severity of what happened. And I was talking about it yesterday about, I think I was talking about it yesterday about the part of my brain has died, and that should not be minimized. I spent my whole life minimizing things. And so I'm doing my best to really capture the absolute severity of my invisible illness. All of them. Um, my anxiety, my depression, my stroke, my alcoholism, and my vestibular disorder. Um, the stroke itself caused my cognitive language and memory I just, there's a misfire. And sometimes when I'm talking, I just hesitate to find the next word. Sometimes it gets so bad that I can't finish my sentence and I forget what I'm talking about, which happens to all of us. But all of this stuff is the real deal. You know, this is the real deal. And so I'm talking about it because of what happened today. because I want to touch somebody else. And wouldn't it be great if I touched somebody that I would have in no other way run across them. And that's the gift that I was given today by this individual reaching out to me today, is that the decision that I made to start this podcast touched somebody else's life. And and her day, like she listens to the podcast, and that makes me feel really valued, it does. So thank you for that gift. That's a long explanation for what you gave me today. So thank you. So what I heard in my meeting this morning was the reading was about infinite directions. And so what it was talking about was space. And I love thinking about space. Sometimes I'll think about space and it freaks me out. you know, Sometimes if I let myself really think about the vastness of what is out there beyond what we can all see. I talk about in my podcast here, I talk about what's happening within our environment, what's happening in our minds and in our circumstances. And when I get thrown into this idea of the vastness of space and the infinite, infinite, I don't know what I'm trying to say, infinite possibilities, um, the uncertainties, the lack of control around us, that it's so, back to that idea of minimizing, it so minimizes for me some of the topics that I talk about, because I'm like, I mean, in the whole scheme of things, does this even matter? Does any of this even matter? Yes, it matters, but it really is a different perspective. It's like just mind-boggling. There are endless mysteries that surround us. Um, we live on this tiny little planet. I have a point, I promise. We live on this tiny little planet in a universe that stretches infinitely in all directions. It is mind-boggling to even attempt to comprehend it. Yet I find it fascinating that I can be at peace in the middle of that. I don't have to understand how it all works. I don't have to go to school and study astronomy. I don't have to look at my telescope every night and plot out where we're headed. you know, I don't have a map on my whiteboard where I'm like drawing lines to track our progress. And I just trust that it's working, right? Yet I question what is happening in my own environment. I question what this person is doing or that person is doing. I question why isn't this person calling me back? Why did I have the stroke? I need to know why I had the stroke. What is a vestibular disorder? Why is there no cure? Why is it that I feel like I need to have the answers to all of these things in my direct environment? Yet I'm okay with the fact that my body is whirling through space on this planet. And I don't know where, I don't know what's going to happen. What if, sometimes they're talking about these meteors or meteorite. I think it's a meteorite if it comes into our atmosphere, I think, that these meteorites come in, or a meteor is coming within a million, whatever's miles from us. And I'm just okay with somebody else will take care of that. you know? Well, isn't that what I need to be doing with my higher power in my direct environment? How is it that I accept the enormity of space and the unknowns that it holds, but when it comes to my small everyday challenges in my life, I struggle with acceptance. I struggle with handing over that control to somebody else, to my higher power. This thought has led me to think about, to realize, I guess, that we can train our minds to accept anything, right? If we can find peace in the vastness of space, why can't I find peace in my daily life? And it's a practice that I'm working on constantly. And I encourage you to try to think of that analogy. Um, Embracing the unknowns in our lives, embracing the infinite possibilities of what can happen in my life. I talked about how life isn't going as planned for me. Well, there are infinite possibilities of the way that my life can go. And because I had the stroke, that didn't change the fact that there has always been infinite possibilities of what can happen in my life. It's just that stroke seems to be one of those ones that surpass that threshold of that's kind of a big deal, Um, there are other things that happened in my life that I didn't plan for. Um, when I got married to my first husband, I didn't plan to get divorced. I didn't get married thinking, you know what, we're just going to do this for a little while. It's not the way I had it planned. Yet when I transitioned to un- being single again, I didn't feel like my life was over. I felt like it was a new chapter of my life. So it's just perspective. Um, why are we here on this single planet surrounded by infinite space? You know, it's something that people have been researching for hundreds and hundreds, I don't know, millions of whatever, forever. People have been studying it forever. And the more that I think about it, the more I realize that I'd rather not know. Not knowing the answer is okay. Not knowing the answer is probably more comforting to me than knowing exactly what's happening. You know, that's just me. And I feel like in my life, if I knew how my story was going to go, it wouldn't be any fun. Um, in fact, it is liberating to not know, to not have all the answers. That is more fulfilling. The process of living through uncertainty is the part of living that is worth it. And this acceptance of uncertainties, I think, can be realized more when I think of it from that perspective. You know, um, why do we find it so easy to accept things that we don't understand than to accept things that we do understand but are not going our way? Right? I If I look at the big picture, the things that I worry about and I stress about are the things that I partially understand. And I want to find the answer. But it's not just finding the answer, it's also, it's not just finding the answer, but it's predicting the uncertainty of what's ahead. So I don't know if I'm kind of, I'm not babbling. I don't like to say that, but I'm really just talking through my thoughts about all of that, you know? Um, I think taking us, my point, what's my point? Let's get to the point. If we spend some time comparing some of these things that we are either either lacking acceptance about or worried about, um, or stressed out about, if we take these things and compare them to things much bigger than what is directly around us and say, well, I'm okay with that. Why wouldn't I be okay with this? Let's think of an example together. Okay. So let's say I am going to get on an airplane and I don't really have a fear of flying. I think when I hadn't done it very much, I used to get really scared. I because I tried to think of when I first started flying, I started thinking of like, how is this massive, really heavy piece of metal flying through the air? But over time, the more that I got on airplanes and got from point A to point B, I started being comfortable. I started trusting that the airplane, I don't have to know how it works. I don't even have to know the route that that the pilot is taking. Um, I just am at peace with the fact that the plane is going to get there at the time that they told me it's going to get there. That's all I care about. So why is it that if, I don't know, what's another example? Um, I was thinking about like, I have a doctor's appointment. Let's think of that. Let's compare that to the flight. I have a doctor's appointment coming up. Um, and I'm completely stressed out about it. I know what time I need to go to the doctor's appointment. I know where it is. So same thing as the plane. Um, but yet I'm really struggling with the lack of control that I have in the situation. It's like when I think about it, I think, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what they're going to say. Um, what if I don't get there in time? What if, um, I have so many what ifs about a doctor's appointment, but yet on the airplane, it's the same thing that I'm going to a totally different place in the United States, and yet I'm not stressed out about it. It's not like I'm like, where, yeah, we're going to delete this part of the podcast. Pause. We don't have to have all the answers in order to live joyfully. And what I really got from this very thought-provoking topic today, which is, I feel like I'm sitting here thinking more than I am talking, but that's okay because you guys love this podcast. This acceptance of how I perceive the unknowns about the vastness of space and not having any control over it, yet I'm okay with it, I think is an example of helping train my mind to be more at peace with things I can't control in my life. But that's really what it comes down to that I've been thinking about today. I'm still obviously exploring this because I'm so pensive. But I think it comes down to perspective. And when we look at the bigger picture, our small worries seem insignificant. This perspective can help us find a little more peace in our daily lives. So I think if I start stressing about something, it might be a good exercise. Stressing about not being able to control. I should say, if I'm having trouble accepting something that I can't control, I might just think for a second about the planet whirling through space. And we'll see what that does. We'll see what happens. Another thing, I'm going to shift gears here. So another thing that came up over the past 24 hours is I was listening to the Calm app, and Tamara Levitt had a meditation on aging. And what she said, and this kind of struck me too, we'll see if I can articulate this as poorly as I did the last topic. But what she was saying is something to the effect of, as we get older, we gain knowledge through our experiences. And it allows us to better navigate our lives. And I think this really resonated with me because I just turned 50 and I was feeling really bad about that. Just not being excited about it. I mean, it sucks, I think, and I need to accept it, but I felt self-pity because I saw all of my friends on Facebook, like the people I went to high school with and people I went to college with, all of them were posting these 50th birthday parties, their surprise birthday parties. And, there's pictures of them like shocked and they're all dressed up and having an amazing time and stuff. And I feel very sorry for myself that I could not do that. I had 150th birthday and that was it, and it's gone. Same thing happened in my high school graduation. You get to graduate once from high school, and on my year it rained and they had to do the graduation indoors, and my family couldn't even be in the same room with me when I graduated. It's that kind of stuff that I'm like, poor me. Anyway, I stray from the topic. I don't even know how I went on that topic, but oh yeah, because yeah, gotcha. I'm caught up. So anyway, the meditation was like, we gain knowledge from aging. So how about instead of dreading aging, we recognize that we do get better with age. I'm not going to say like a fine wine, but I know that's what you're thinking. It it is supposed to get more enjoyable as we get older and we figure out who we are and how we best respond to the world around us. Um, I learn more about myself through these freaking struggles in my life, and how and my role, I think, in my environment. I can appreciate more about life as I struggle through things. Isn't that kind of backwards? Even the mysteries and the challenges. And that's what I'm trying to get better at. And I think so the topics kind of are interwoven, even though it may not seem like it because I'm having a hard time completing my thoughts. But as we get older, we get better at navigating the uncertainties, the mysteries. And I want to work hard to let that happen. I don't want to fight life the older I get because I see it happening. I see people who fight harder as they get older instead of letting life become more enjoyable, settling in even more as they get older. And that's what I want to try to do. So that's it. That's it, people. That's all I got. And if you made it through that whole episode with me being silent and saying and all that stuff, you are a dedicated listener. And if I had a prize for you, I would give it to you. How about if you made it through the whole episode? I'm going to show you the craft that I did today. So some of you know that I've been learning to crochet, and I'm just teaching myself. And so let me turn my camera so that I can see what I'm showing on the camera. So I made this. This was just my test piece. Pretty good. Show it up close. Different stitches. So this was my test piece. And then I thought, well, what can I do with this? And so I found a bag online that looked like it had a piece that looked like this. And I thought, oh, I can make a bunch of different pieces and make a bag. I think it was called a Jude bag, if you've heard of that. So I wanted to learn how to make a granny square. And my first granny square I started last night, and I had to take it out because it wasn't good. And so this morning during my AA meetings, I just decided to get some yarn and make my own. It's not a granny square, it's like a circle. And so there it is. Can you see it? That is awesome. And then I made a second one. They're different, they're not the same. But I used the stitches that I learned. Anyway, I'm going to piece these pieces together to make a purse. And it may or may not be gifted to somebody who has a birthday coming up. And if she listens to this podcast, then I just gave it away. But I don't know if she listens or not. So that'll be interesting to find out if she listens. Anyway, so that's your reward for listening to the whole episode. I showed you my latest craft, and I have a new craft every day. So stay tuned to the end of the podcast, and I'll share with you my hobbies. That's it. I'm done babbling. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.